Speech is power. Speech is to persuade, to convert, to compel. These are the words of Ralph Waldo Emerson, a famous American philosopher and writer who valued self-reliance. Freeing my people has everything to do with the connection between speech and self-reliance and the power our culture attributes to both. Imagine for a minute that you don't have speech and you are removed from your home for reasons no one bothers to tell you because you can't speak, so they assume you can't hear or think or feel. You have to imagine what you would say to someone and dearly hope someone will read your mind, but they can't. You have no choice but to escape inside yourself and hope to be invisible so the indecencies stop. How many non-speaking kids live in these conditions? Are we going to tune them out, or do we care enough to listen?
Finding Our Voices, compiled and edited by DJ Savarese.
I am autism.
I am visible in your children, but if I can help it, I'm invisible to you until it is too late.
I work faster than AIDS, cancer, and diabetes combined.
If you're happily married, I will make sure your marriage fails.
Your money will fall into my hands, and I will bankrupt you for my own self-gain.
Your scientists don't have the resources, and I relish their desperation.
I derive great pleasure from your loneliness.
I will fight to take away your hope.
I will plot to rob you of your children and your dreams.
Autism Speaks, the richest autism-related organization, startled the autistic community and its fresh-thinking allies when it released this message nationally in September 2009. The freeze in this organization released fear, filling American heads with terrifying ultimatums. But hopeful, fresh-thinking ASAN, a group of autistic self-advocates, closed it down within a few days, opening the way for the online gallery Finding Our Voices, one example of autists coming together to define and advocate for ourselves. What follows are 8 pieces from that gallery, 5 in their complete form and 3 abridged.
Look Into My Heart by Roy Bedward.
Look into my heart.
Know this, I have love for people.
Look into my heart.
Know this, I have love for God.
Look into my heart.
Know this, I have love for good knowledge.
Look into my heart.
Know this, I have love for non-living things.
Look into my heart.
And know this, I have love for all the creatures on earth.
Neurodiversity is a word many of us use. It suggests that there is nothing treated as normal. Instead, we are all wired differently, a fresh-thinking, fearless approach. Some of our critics say we freshly hope too much, but as this piece shows, we are keenly aware of the challenges our autism presents.
On Neurodiversity by Daniel McConnell.
The topic of neurodiversity is so big, I hardly know where to begin. Let me start by saying that it is not easy to tell how my neuro is diverse when it is the only neuro that I know. I think it is telling that I cannot talk. My mouth is a foreign country far beyond the borders of my limited body control. It is not really even on the map. But it makes noise I can wave to from afar. There are so many thoughts that need to be spoken in typing. My mind moves like lightning, and my body like a cement truck. Yet, it is all I can do to stay sitting. My mind is like a freight train, and I can't make it slow down and stop in time. I wish that it was not so persistent in its moving.
You might think that I am brave, but I am scared of everything, even words. But it is my only hope for a life of importance. Being brave is the hardest thing in the world, but it is also the most important. This is hard because telling the truth makes you show your inside thoughts, which might make others unhappy or sad or mad or even possibly happy. That is a scary thought. Not I, said the king when they asked about the words on the walls. This story is about how words can help or hurt you, depending on how they are used and how they are received too. They can go either way, but you might not know or be able to control them once they are out of the bag, so to speak.
Autism is not a condition. It is a way of life. I remember everything from the day I was born. Telling my story does not mean telling my whole life. It means telling my life with words. When I was little, I taught myself to read because I needed to learn things about the world. I started reading everything in sight, and eventually it started to make sense to me. That was when I knew I would be okay. Yes, having things to think about saved me. I learned to read by studying the patterns of language. I only understood a little at first, but then soon the understanding grew to include more and more letters and words. My understanding grew fast once I got a good supply of letters under my belt. Then I would rejoice with each new victory. It was very exciting in those days, but my excitement would have been unbearable if I had known that someday I would be using my new knowledge to write my own thoughts and feelings. Never did I imagine such a thing as this.
I understand that being able to speak is the keys to the kingdom. It is the most important skill next to arm control, which is most difficult for me. I made up thought problems in my head, and then set about to answer them to my own satisfaction. I had very high standards for the answers, so sometimes it took a long time to finish a problem. Here are some. Why do words and letters mean so much to people? And why do they think about things in words instead of in pictures? Why did my life seem happier once I knew how to read and think in words instead of make sense of the world in pictures?
You need to remember that my mind is moving at warp speed all of the time. It needs a lot to keep it busy. It's like a hungry elephant that can never get enough to eat. The mind is a terrible thing to waste. I need more food for the mind and less for the body. My mind cannot get too full. It empties itself out as needed. If more important information comes along, other less important stuff will move to a different area so I can pay attention to the new. I think about ideas all the time. I'm never without an idea in my head. They keep me from going crazy. I love to think about how things work, and about how people are, and about God, and about the meaning of life, and about the reasons why I'm this way, and about love and how it can save me. I think I'm here for a reason. I also think about why love circles around some people and not others. Yes, I do feel the love that circles around me.
Feelings are my behavioral downfall. Imagine a body that does not obey, coupled with not being able to talk. You think I'm making these sounds on purpose, but I'm not really in control of them. It is not like I intend to scream, but the noise just comes out instead of coming out words. I know it is just too hard to listen to, but I just need to hear myself sometimes. I think it makes me appear retarded, so I prefer not to do it. I am always doing my best. Listen to my heart and not my body. It is all I can do to stay sitting. My heart is so full, but it feels like it could burst open any time, day or night. Sometimes I worry that it is too full, and if it gets any fuller, I will just implode.
It is a heavy heart that loves this world too much. It is the heart of a man who is in love with everything and everyone on this earth, who is all love, but knows there is no room for such a heart in this world. It will only be trampled and stomped on if I let it show. I want to do math, because that will challenge my brain instead of my heart. I think words cannot hold so much emotion, but I'm learning that they can, and I find it to be a miracle of unbelievable proportions. Not that it gets any easier to have emotions, but it does save on wear and tear on the body.
I have love for everyone, even people I don't happen to like. I hope that I can convey how this love happens in spite of my own feelings. It happens to me, not from me. I think I am just a leaf blowing in the winds of some great love that has my number. Love has my number, but mind you, I'm not complaining. I just want people to know it's not necessarily because I am such a good person. It is neither to my credit nor my blame that this love moves in me. I hope that people will believe this, because it will not be good if they think I'm some kind of saint or something. It can be scary because it is so big. When I was little, it scared me more than it does now. I want people to feel the love that there is for them. If they open their hearts to it, it will flow in and fill all the corners where maybe there has never been love before. Sometimes there are dark and empty corners.
I grieve for the others who do not have typing to help them say the things that are in their hearts. I remember how it was before typing set me free. I could not understand why everyone could talk but me. So now I still can't talk, but I have a voice anyway. Who could have dreamed such a thing?
Typing by Amy Sequenzia.
Now that I sit down to type, I look outside and the day is bright. My fingers move with passion. I know typing is my mission. The thoughts I put down on the screen, my words show clearly what I mean. The joy of typing as my goal, messages of hope. I won't take no. To all my friends who hear my words, we at CATA can change the world. Now that I sit down to type, I know my words come out right.
Herbert Hoover wrote that in the great mass of our people, there are plenty of individuals of intelligence from among whom leadership can be recruited. I want to show everyone that the same is true for non-speaking people. Many of us have worked great feats, but as individual voices. Among us are many published writers, 3 film stars, and 1 screenwriter who actually made it to the red carpet. By gathering our work in one place, I hope to show people the breadth of kindness, talent, and experience we have. By showing kids that fresh thinking, real autists exist, I hope to encourage them to freely learn to read and write. My friend Chandi came to America to learn to type, and now encourages others in his home country of Sri Lanka.
Free My Voice by Chandima Rajapatirama.
The gift of life is not enough. We treasure our parents, and we know you love us. However, for those of us who are unable to communicate our thoughts, life is bitter. I was mute for almost 18 years. I'd like if you take a minute to imagine that. One minute of your life for 18 years of mine. I am seized with grief. There are too many of my brothers and sisters in that silent, bitter abyss still. They have no means of communication, or the systems they have are only allowed to say the most basic of things. Mute people do have things they want to say. Having the ability to order what we want at McDonald's is great, but cloistered in our segregated lives, we yet have a lot we want to say. I like being able to talk like other young guys, but a basic communication system will just not let me write poetry or flirt with girls or fight with mom.
The gift of age-appropriate communication is denied to some of us. Too many of us are offered dull pictures as our only communication tool. I am greatly saddened by the utterly wrong assumption. Not being able to speak means not having anything to say. Why does this happen? Is it because of prejudice?
Yes, even parents can be prejudiced. If their child looks and acts differently, even parents often prejudge their child to be unintelligent. Without assuming competence, there is no motivation to search for an adequate means of communication or even an appropriate education. So for the child with a disability, parents and teachers settle for the bare minimum. Thereby they create what they predict, an incompetent person.
I have heard parents and teachers claim a 10-year-old who has a handful of words as having adequate speech. Dear reader, who would look at a normal 10-year-old and assume he needs only 10 words? It's easy to believe that people who look and act like us don't have much of anything they want to say. A vice-like grip of sadness grabs me. Hailing facilitated communication for breaking down old walls, I yet know that many still remain. We built some of those walls to protect ourselves from your hurtful assumptions, and some are built by you out of ignorance of who we really are. Some of us withdraw into our own world, deciding yours is not even worth the effort. This is not because we want to isolate ourselves, but you make it too hard to join you with your frustrating assumptions about our incompetence. I suppose old assumptions are hard to break, but sometimes I think walls made of stone are easier to demolish.
You must find help for the too many mute people in our community.
You must not assume speech is the only way to communicate. If a person is mute, their most pressing need is a voice. Whether they speak with their mouths or their hands is immaterial.
Role of a conscientious teacher. Yes, a teacher must be conscientious, is to help their students find their own voice. I'd like to let you into a little secret. I'm forced by my apraxia to hold my facilitator's hand, but this is my voice. My life was a wasteland until facilitated communication freed my voice. I could only yell out my justifiable rage until then. I am jostling my memory, trying to relive that time. Terror seizes me. My teachers did not assume competence. It is infuriating to be considered incompetent. I lived down to their low expectations.
My mom taught me at home what the teachers did not do. She taught me to love words by reading to me. Feeding my brain with poetry and prose, she nurtured a voice she didn't even know existed. That is why I emerged at 18 with a huge vocabulary. Inside me lurked the words I had carved in my brain. Finally, I am able to express them with all the fluency at my command. Like my mother, you too must search for means of communication for your students, and you must not give up until you have found one. I am now a teacher who has brought the gift of a voice to several voiceless students, and I know the satisfaction I feel in that is not second to the soaring joy I feel for my own voice.
Listen to the voice of one friend typing on his own for the first time.
Untitled by Quinn Partridge.
All trees over the mountain. All trees, wind area. The forever, not forever. The world ever. The two in the two. The dreaming, the genie.
The next piece is written by my friend and fellow political freedom fighter. We share a passion for politics.
Building the Road to Self-Advocacy by Tracy Thresher.
Not being able to express myself was like being in a world of silence. I couldn't tell people what I liked and what I didn't like. People thought I was retarded, that I didn't understand what was being said to me. It was frustrating. It made me angry, and I withdrew.
The impact of learning to speak up and have a voice has been quite meaningful for me. I have typed life goals and dreams that have actually come true. One dream of mine was to go to church and be baptized. I told my mom this, and it happened. I have been able to meet with my pastor and discuss God and the Bible because religion is very important to me.
I have been appointed by the governor to the Vermont State Standing Committee on Developmental Disabilities. This is a very important appointment because I am the only autistic person on the committee that types to communicate. With so much at stake, we need to voice our opinions front and center so that typing is seen as valuable input.
Yes, I want you all to know that speaking up and speaking out are as American as apple pie and hot dogs. It is every American's God-given right to speak one's thoughts, views, and lost world ways.
The war in Iraq is not proper use of America's troops, resources, or political capital. This is also true of autism. The current wars on autism are deeply misled, and a strong voice is needed from people with autism.
Without that voice, the fear will guide the way autism is treated. That is more to do with people's misunderstanding of what autism is, and I think people have loads of professional, awful information. We are not a diagnosis or a label. We are people with feelings, likes, and dislikes, very much like everyone else.
All I wish is that we didn't have to deal with so much ignorance. Really, I do. But so be it. And onward, soldiers, and let's change how people view disability. Righteous indignation is up to us. So I say, speak out. and let people know what you are thinking, for silence is deadly, and speech is golden.
So outspoken, Tracy is saying, think with your hearts and minds to cast out the doubters, making our message clear. I want you all to think about what you do when you leave here today. Big time call to action, folks. Step up and speak out.
The Americans with Disabilities Act was passed nearly 20 years ago. In it, kids are supposedly guaranteed an education in the least restrictive environment. Sadly, most non-speaking kids in Iowa and the nation are still taught in separate classrooms or at home. So my people and I will work on.
Iridescent Funk by Nick Pentzell.
Veering wildly side to side, the auto effect of a serious swing in color.
Red.
Green.
Purple.
Yellow.
I arc across the brown in the center, trailing my feet, muddying hue, suspended from a pivot, wan and objective. Chromatonic surges flex a body glutted in pigment.
Orange.
Blue.
Vivid.
Saturated.
Endless palette, smeared and confused, exciting and painful, wearying with life.
Panel presentation for the Disability Studies in Education Conference, the Syracuse Law School by Jamie Burke.
I have noticed that in the study of the Native Americans, there seems to be a calling for the justice of the life worth of demonstrating the worth of all communities of people, whether they are the nations of the Iroquois or Mohawk, or communities of people who may struggle with communication, motor dysfunction, or sensory regulation, that deserve to be valued for just being the human they are.
I have seen the lowering of expectation when I struggle.
Please know, for me and for others, it is profoundly vital to not give the opportunity to move us quietly through the door, where I know some have their toe pressed against it.
For if you allow us to go through it, it must be a full and complete entrance.
Allowing us only to gaze into that perfect space is unjust and useless.
Finally, my formulating the joy of this journey wants to include so many others who should have the opportunity to be at college or university, where worlds of odd literature and explanations of staying safe in sex and dating and soul revelations of an Ojibwa professor regarding the truth of the Native Americans is boldly open to all. I feel as we here reveal ourselves to you, that your knowledge is our power.
Fortunately, our generation has a chance to get free of thinking that speech and self-reliance are power. Our cell phones and our computers assess the whole world as interrelated and interdependent. They remind us that typing is now the powerful means of communication that people once thought speech was. It is our responsibility as the younger generation to create and rewrite our futures in this global world together.